Hey viewers, my name's Cara. I'm your host for Tuesdays here on the Pagan Perspective. This week we're talking about whether we think that pagans or our specific type of pagan have any sort of responsibility. The exact wording of the topic will be in the description of my video as always. And I do have my window open, so we're hearing a neighbor's dog barking in the background and all that kind of thing. But I'm gonna try to keep this one a little short and sweet today. As far as whether I think, from my personal perspective, of course, right? Because that's always what we're talking about here. Do I think that the kind of pagan or witch that I am, does that come with any specific sort of responsibilities? And there are lots of things that I could mention just briefly. For example, being an earth-based or nature-based practitioner. If we consider our path earth-based or nature-based, as I do consider that to come with a responsibility to care for the earth and make sure that we are learning how to benefit the earth, connect with, or work within natural cycles rather than going against them, rather than causing detriment. So we could go into all sorts of things like that that are dependent on the individual ways that people identify. But I was trying to think of something like really big picture. Is there something that I feel like applies to this? And there is one thing that I say a lot, that I talk about a lot, and I don't even think of this as necessarily a pagan responsibility or a witch responsibility. I think that this is sort of a responsibility of all people, but it might very well be because I am following the path that I am on that I think this. And it is that I think we always have a responsibility to do better than those who came before us. And there's a little bit of a balance to this because it's also very important to many of us, especially if we do any ancestor type work. It's important to many of us, and again, not just pagans and witches, but many people, to honor our ancestors and know our roots and understand our history and what those who came before us have done to get us to the point where we are now, for better and for worse. And I agree with that, and I think that is important. In no way am I saying that it is not important. I think that it is equally important for me in my path to honor our ancestors, to acknowledge our ancestors and the role that they have played in getting us to where we are today. Because again, that's for better or for worse. So it might not always feel appropriate to use the word honor if we are acknowledging negative aspects of our history. And that is another topic that we've talked about here on the channel. Maybe last year, someone asked us about that, about acknowledging negative aspects of our history. So maybe the word honor doesn't always make sense, but to honor or acknowledge, I do think that is important. And then as we acknowledge, as we learn and know and seek to understand our history and how it got us to where we are today, I think then that it is our responsibility to do better from here on out. And that's not to say that we're going to be perfect, because that's also, the hope is that then our descendants, be they biological descendants or spiritual descendants, whatever, those who come after us doing the work that we're doing, it is my hope and expectation that they will then seek and strive to do better than we have done. And so I think that is a responsibility within my sort of conception of how the world works and definitely directly relates to my path, as it directly relates to my conception of ancestors and descendants. So that's a big one. That's the main thing that I wanted to talk about in this video, because that's really the main thing that I think I ever talk about when I talk about what I feel that we have a responsibility to do as people and within the context of my personal practice. Again, there are littler things we could talk about, like the earth-based thing. And one other thing that is very relevant to me, because I do identify as a witch, I wanted to note that I also very much agree and very much appreciate what Magic said in her video last month. It's a very short video, so if you haven't seen it yet, definitely go and listen to that. But Magic was talking about those of us who do identify with the word witch, and that comes with a responsibility to, and this is funny because Magic did that video and used that wording of it being a responsibility before I had put in the topic for this week. So I watched it and then I was like, wait, did I get them out of order or something? Because I thought that was her answering this topic, but it was really just a synchronicity that we were thinking of the same wording, and I put this in for later this month. But talking about the responsibility that comes with choosing to identify with the word witch, because in some sense we are identifying with all of those who came before who did not necessarily actually practice witchcraft, who were not actually necessarily witches, but those who were accused of practicing witchcraft due to suspicion or any other number of things, who were persecuted due to that suspicion, due to accusations from their friends, family, and neighbors, community members, and many of whom were executed due to that suspicion. So that's very relevant to my path because I do identify as a witch. However, a lot of people say that they directly identify with, the victims of the witch trials because they think of them as people who were persecuted for their beliefs. I don't think of them that way because we do know that most of the people who were accused, put on trial, executed, or died in jail, the equivalent thereof, we do know that most of those people were not actually witches. They were not practicing witchcraft as we know it today. They were people who most likely were Christian or whatever the prevailing belief system was in their area, who were accused of what the church thought of as witchcraft, devil worship, whatever. So to me, it's not that I truly feel a direct connection as though those people were walking the same path that I am and consciously had decided to be witches and were consciously and knowingly practicing witchcraft. But it's an acknowledgement that there is an identification there with the fact that they were accused of doing something that we are actually doing, that we are actually now choosing consciously to do and speak about. And again, with acknowledging those who came before us, people who came before us have fought for our rights to be able to talk about these things publicly at all, So whether or not those people were actually practicing witchcraft, were actually witches, or actually identified as such, maybe some of them were midwives, healers, people with certain knowledge that was looked down upon. Maybe that is true. But whether or not they were actually doing whatever, they were accused of it, they were persecuted because of it, and many were executed, and many others died as a result. So I agree with what Magic was stating in that video, that there is also a responsibility that comes with that. So those are the main things for me, the ancestors and descendants type thing, that I feel that we have a responsibility to be always doing better, that, just because something used to be done a certain way or has always been done a certain way isn't a reason to continue doing it that way if we can improve it and do better for those who come after us, do better for our community as it stands today. For people in general is who I mean by our community. And then also slightly more specific things, because I do identify as a pagan and a witch, as an earth-based practitioner. So yeah, those are just a few things that are kind of the main points that I wanted to mention. And yeah, I'm gonna go. keep this one a little shorter and sweeter because things are, things are what they are. And yeah, thanks for watching and or listening to this video. Do let us know if you have any thoughts you'd like to share in the comments, or if you'd like to use this topic on your personal channel and make your own video response to this week's topic. Go ahead and do that and let people know in the comments. You might not want to put a link because a link in the comments might get flagged as spam and it might not show up right away, but if you just let people know, hey, on my channel, I did a video in response to this topic, then people can click on your name, go to your channel, and find it there. So yeah, thanks to one of our team members actually suggested this topic. It's been on our list for a while, so thanks for that topic. Thanks for participating in the conversation, and I hope you're doing as well as can be. So yeah, until next time, don't forget to be awesome, blessed be, and goodbye.